Okay. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to the Caregiver webinar series, September 2021 webinar, with the topic today being self-care for caregivers, which for any of us caregivers out there, we know is something we usually very at. It's not a topic that we usually follow our own advice on as we give it to other people. So I want to cover a couple of housekeeping items first for each of you, which is there is transcription available, so you can turn that on or off as you're going through. We are recording this, so hopefully you'll think it's fantastic. There'll be lots of tips in it that you'll want to share with other people, and you'll be able to, we'll be able to send that link after for folks to watch again or to share with somebody else. There are all the other links that we will be sharing in the chat, so keep an eye out for those, and those links will also be sending out as soon as we're done as well. And if you have any questions, you can send those in the chat. We can answer those anonymously, send them anonymously, however you'd like to, and we'll make sure we are addressing those as well. So I'm going to jump in very quickly by introducing myself. We have a lot that we're going to cover in this hour. We have a lot because there's a lot going on in this world right now, and there's a lot going on for unpaid caregivers in particular. And that is obviously going to be our focus is on that unpaid caregiver and how to support them in every way possible, especially as they work to support themselves. So I'm going to run through a bunch of data, and then we're going to switch to a panel discussion, which I think will be fantastic. And you'll see over the flow of our time together how these things are merging together. So Paul, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and hope that that is legal and that that works. And if this is not working for folks, just let me know. I'm assuming this is good. So again, just by way of introduction, my name is Alexandra Drane. And for any of you just joining, we are in the Caregiver webinar series. Self-care for caregivers is our topic. I am the co-founder and CEO of ARCHANGELS. I also do a lot of work in the state of Massachusetts. I'm working with Mass Tech Collaborative, the Massachusetts Caregiving Initiative. I'm obsessed with all things Massachusetts and caregiving, and very, very grateful to be part of this webinar with you guys today. So to start, let me just share by giving you a quick background on what ARCHANGELS is and why it's relevant to what we're doing today. So we are a national movement that is reframing, a national movement and a platform that's reframing how unpaid caregivers are seen, honored, and supported using a combination of data and stories, and doing that through both public and private partnerships. And I think you can sort of feel the dance of that, right? The public and private partnerships component is so important because if we're only looking for unpaid caregivers, so that we can help them get better care. If we're only looking for them when they're employed, we're going to miss a lot of them because a huge number of unpaid caregivers have to leave their jobs or they're not even able to start a job in the first place. So we do work certainly through employers and through health plans and health systems, but we're also working through faith-based communities or through community-based organizations to be finding these caregivers and helping them be seen in the role that they're playing in other ways as well. We're huge believers that there's a sort of flow to how impact ultimately happens, which is you do research, that gets you the data, that gets you action ultimately, which leads you to impact. So I want to share some of that data first to start. So we're going to go back to the Wayback Machine. This is before COVID, way back in 2020, when people were trying to get a handle of what is this unpaid caregiver thing. There was a study that came out that was like a bombshell that was by AARP. It said 21% of adults in the US are unpaid caregivers. That shocked a lot of people. Further, it went on to share other sources as well. 45% are men, 1 in 4 are millennials, 1 in 5 are Gen Z. We did a study published by the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association that looked at before COVID, unpaid caregivers already had 26% poorer health, overutilizing the ER, overutilizing the hospital because there was no other way for them to go get care, and more likely to develop stress, chronic illness due to stress, and twice the rate of depression. That was before COVID. So before COVID, unpaid caregivers. So think about this for your own body, guys. Before COVID, we were already in a harder place. And now after COVID, here's a quick snapshot of what we've been able to capture. We did a study in collaboration with the CDC that showed if you just looked at unpaid caregivers specifically in the earlier days of COVID, the impact on mental health was profound. 56% of unpaid caregivers having clinically significant anxiety or depression or TSRD, 2.5 times the rate of somebody who is not a caregiver. What do you do if you're an unpaid caregiver and you're stressed out? You self-medicate. I know that I certainly do. So the rate of increasing the use of substances to cope, specifically drugs or alcohol, went up by 5 times for that of unpaid caregivers. We also know sometimes unpaid caregivers don't have the luxury of coping with alcohol, right? Because you got to get up in the middle of the night, you have to administer a medication, make sure somebody's okay, roll them over. In that case, a lot of us cope through food. 50% of unpaid caregivers coping through food. I sometimes cope with both. I find that that works as well. And now in direct contrast to before, when we were not going to get care, we were getting care, but in inefficient ways. Now, as of COVID, a lot of unpaid caregivers aren't even getting care at all, to the rate of 5 times that, delaying or avoiding emergency or medical care than that of non-caregivers. Now, we're all experiencing the 4th wave, but as the 3rd wave was beginning to come in, we actually began to see a really significant impact, building on what you've already seen from the data, specifically on that sandwich generation caregiver. So somebody who's caring for someone younger or older at the same time. Published that study in June of 2021. And what we found was pretty extraordinary. And I want to come back and touch on a couple of these points really, really quickly as it relates to each of you as you're listening, right? So it's no longer that there are 21% of us, it's 43% of us are now in this role. 43% of adults across the US are serving as the role of unpaid caregiver. And if you are in this role, you have a 70% of us have clinically significant anxiety, depression, TSRD, or risk of suicidal ideation. Incredible to think about that statistic, right? But let's go back to this parent caregiver, this sandwich generation caregiver, right? Actually, 23% of all adults in the US are now in this role. They are serving as sandwich generation caregivers. They're really getting at it from both sides. So it's no surprise that the percent getting impacted now jumps to 85% in terms of some clinically significant impact, anxiety, depression, TSRD. So the study that we did also looked at what you can think of as the most extreme manifestation of impact on your behavioral health, which is this notion of suicidal ideation. The definition of which is serious suicidal thoughts in the last 30 days. I want you to think of the country as 4 cohorts. Cohort 1 is I'm not in any caregiving role at all. 4.5% are having, in the country right now, are having active suicidal ideation, serious suicidal thoughts. So I'm not in any caregiving role at all, but I am having serious suicidal thoughts. If you are caring as a parent or guardian to someone or to individuals under 18, you need to know that that rate jumps to 9%. What if I'm caring for somebody only over 18, right? So I'm only caring for somebody who's older, that rate jumps to 10%. I wish we were together because I would ask you guys to raise your hand and take a guess. If you are in cohort 4, right, that 23% of all adults in the sandwich generation role, that jump actually goes to 52%. So if you run that math out at 52% of 23% are having active serious suicidal ideation. That's 1 in 10. So the good news about that, right, is if you walk into a room of sandwich generation caregivers, more than half of you are actually experiencing serious suicidal thoughts. So knowing that you're not alone, that's incredibly important. And then there are a lot of resources that exist to help, right? So we've got to build this awareness for individuals that you are in this role and it is having an impact. And then we got to get a sense of how that's impacting you and get support for you. For any of you, by the way, who are what we call double duty caregivers, so you're getting at it from both sides, that rate actually doubles yet again. This is some data we just pulled from New York. So if you are a paid caregiver at the same time as an unpaid caregiver, nurse, doctor, frontline worker of some kind, such as 63% of you are in the red, which is pretty extraordinary. So my message to all of you first is please put your air mask on before serving others. So you've got to find a little time for yourself. That's this notion of self-care. We know self-care often, again, makes people laugh out loud, like, ha, 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 I've got no time for self-care. But our panel is going to share some tips with you about ways that you can. Actually, it can be easier than we think, just to sneak away for a second. I want to walk through an example of something called the Caregiver Intensity Index. And we'll share with all of you guys a link for how you can get your own intensity score. But this is a really important way to help validate for yourself that you are an unpaid caregiver, the impact it's having on your health, and things that you can do. Because we know when the Caregiver Intensity Index puts you into the green, yellow, or red, before COVID, 8% of us were in the red. As of COVID, a full 26% of us are in the red. That's an over 3x increase. So how do we do it? Let's see if this is going to work for me. It's not. I'm going to bunch out of this and see if I can scroll over. I can't, so I'm going to go over here. This is Faith under. All right, so this is my Caregiver Intensity Index, which you can get through to the link. We'll be launching this campaign in a couple of weeks, and there'll be a lot of other ways for you to get to this link as well. So this is for me to figure out how I'm doing right now. So I'm going to answer with my own personal situation, which has a lot of intensity in it. So it's going to ask me a couple questions very quickly. Am I caring for a relative or a friend who is 18 years or older? with a reminder that any care counts. Yes, I am. I have 2 children I'm caring for. What about somebody? The first question was over. Yes. Under 18. Yes, I'm doing that as well. And you see the examples, helping with schoolwork, personal needs, household chores, trying to remind people it's not just this traditional role that you might have thought of. And here's my situation. So I'm actually going to describe something that just happened last week, caring for a family member that we thought was well cared for. Turns out that their situation was much less supported than we thought. This is a sibling of mine who has, from a different marriage, whose mom had to go in unexpectedly for back surgery. This kicked off all sorts of things. A situation with the person or people I provide for can be unpredictable or unstable. Oh my gosh, that's been very true for me this last week. I don't know what to expect in my caregiving situation, so it's hard to plan ahead. Yes. I've had to cut down on my own expenses because I help pay for things for the person or people I care for. That's actually not true for me. I am doing okay right now with my job, and my honey has a job, but it is a financial burden overall on our family. Absolutely. And our family definitely has disagreements about people not doing enough to help, to such an extent that one family member and I love this person madly. We are not speaking to each other right now. So I would say strongly agree on that one. Disagreements by people not spending enough time with the person or people I'm providing care to. Absolutely. That's very true. Siblings are actually, this is a point of care across any family, but siblings can be a particular challenge during times of high intensity. I feel underprepared for most situations I encounter as a caregiver. This is true. This is a long distance caregiving situation for me. I thought there was more support available than there was. I have not been prepared to handle this well. And I always feel I should be doing more. Strongly agree. I have more to do than I can handle. I'm going to stay neutral on that. But I do feel really supported by friends, neighbors, or family. And that's a very protective, resilient, creating thing to have. I do have someone I can turn to for support when things are difficult. Some of you are on this call right now. I love you. Mwah! Molly, I call you probably way too often. Paul, I can call you. I am confident in my ability to navigate the health insurance benefits of the person or people I'm caring for. No, I have zero idea how to do that. I don't know how to manage the financial situation of the person or people I'm caring for. I have no idea whatsoever. But I do feel that I'm doing a good thing. And that's really important, right? That's also very protective. I think I'm learning to effectively cope. I think I'm becoming confident in my ability to handle it, but it has completely limited my ability to spend time doing things I take pleasure in. Absolutely. It is an ongoing thing. I don't have as much personal freedom as I would like. I would not say that I am depressed, but I would say that I am incredibly stressed out. I do sometimes feel manipulated by the person or people I'm caring for, and I do sometimes resent what I have to do as a caregiver. A lot of folks, when we go through this very quickly with them, will be like, oh my gosh, that was like a 2-minute therapy session, right? It sort of touches on a lot of the things that we feel. And there's data behind each of these. These are why we're asking the questions that we do. Lots and lots of data that you are not alone in this. I'm working full-time for pay. I have had to miss more work than normal. I'm not less productive because this is actually my job. But my employer does give me the flexibility I need. Very important. That in and of itself reduces intensity, and I do get support. I'm finished. I'm going to get my score. Calculating your score, doing nothing probably feels like a break, and we're guessing you could use one. I'm curious where okay, so I'm in the 60. I'm 60. I'm moderate. 70% of us are in the yellow right now. So I'm in the yellow. I could immediately click through to resources that can help. It's going to tell me whether the 2 things driving my intensity, things that are making it less, and that's where I can click through and get resources if I want. In closing, I'll just say the things that were making it more intense for me is no time for me. Here we go with self-care for caregivers, navigating money and benefits for others. I do feel supported by friends and family, and I do feel supported at work. I could help someone else get it, or I could create a profile. So I'm going to come back down here to our deck, and I'm going to now switch back over. I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to call up our panel. So we're going to have the most extraordinary women. We did a prep call last week, and for me personally, I would say it was transformative in a lot of ways. I learned things that I hadn't. We've got 3 experts who are going to join us, who are going to get very personal in sharing their own realities and their own experiences as professionals, but really more importantly, as that is translated into their personal roles as being unpaid caregivers. So I'm going to call up Sharon McNamara-Cruz, if you'll join us, Sharon Yeager, and Alexandria Theobald-Colbert, another Alex. What up to my other Alex? And I think what we're going to cover today is a lot. So we've got about 15 to 17 minutes. So what we're going to do, so we can get as much out of you guys as possible, is I'm going to jump around with each of you. And the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is if you will just share with me very quickly your name, your professional role, and then I'm going to ask each of you, we'll start with you, Sharon, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the personal role that caregiving has played for you. But if you could just start quickly with your name and your professional role.
My name is Sharon Yeager, and I'm from Aging Services of North Central Mass, and I apologize for sounding like a frog today. I am the caregiver specialist at the agency. I've only been in the role a little over a year. I've been in the elder network for close to 30 years now, and have had the opportunity to see 5 generations of caregiving over the course of my life. So my parents took care of my mom until she passed away when I was a teenager, and she lived in our home. So that was a very interesting influence for me to grow up in that environment. And then when I went to college, I lived with my maternal grandmother, who was caring for her mother, who lived to be 101. And then through circumstances that happened with our daughter a few years back, my husband and I had to become caregivers of our own grandchildren. And so, like I said, 5 generations over the course of that span. And in talking about what we really found to help us get through, that period, and seeing what worked for my parents and for my grandmother, I would say that the big thing that was helpful was for me having a faith community and being able to lock in that I had that time each week, because it's so hard to ask people, can you help come over and watch the kids or watch mom for this period of time, and to be able to say, well, I'm going to church, at this time, or synagogue or a temple, and then
You hit mute.
Sorry about that. So whether you're going to a temple or a mosque, being able to say, I'm going to be gone for this amount of time, and then I'm going to be running some errands afterwards. Nobody really seemed to question that. And again, it worked for my parents, it worked for my grandmother. So I was just kind of using what I had seen worked for other family members. And, when you go the same time each week, you look forward to it. That's going to be your time to spiritually recharge, emotionally, physically be able to step away. And so in having our discussion, that was definitely something that worked for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been doing some work with faith-based communities and listening to the extent to which a faith-based community can be such a support in and of itself. And when sometimes a disagreement can come from family, to be able to escape that way. And you had talked before, Sharon, about sort of the guilt and all that. There's so many beautiful things of being an unpaid caregiver, as you yourself have shown. You've been in this role so many times, and there's a lot of it that can feel hard. And so having a place to escape that you can easily ask for, and that people sort of recognize as it's not you doing something that people don't recognize, it's you're doing this thing that the whole community sort of supports. I love that. I thought that was a wonderful way for us to take away as a tip. Put on your calendar something that no matter what, people won't question, and they'll come over and help you in doing, so you can have this time that you're consistently doing. So Alex, I'm going to come over to you quickly. If you could just introduce yourself quickly, share your role. I'd love you to share your score if you had a chance to do your intensity index. And what I really want to chat with you about is, Sharon just shared an example about how to build a certain type of community. I'm going to pick your brain a little bit about where have you found support, and what suggestions do you give to people who have not been able to find those same sources of support. But if you could start with your name, what you're doing professionally, and your score.
Sure. So my name is Alexandria. I go by Alex. I'm the Community Enhancement Specialist at South Shore Elder Services. My score index this morning, about 2 hours ago, I was at a 49, which is in the yellow. And I became a caregiver pretty suddenly on my wedding day, unknown to my husband and I. My grandfather had a fire in his home, and it kind of began our caregiving journey. My biggest support was my husband. He was my rock through the entire thing, through our journey. But understanding that that's not available to some is obviously the reality. So in my role, I really try to press upon people to join the faith-based community, to also look for support groups in your area. They are out there. They're now virtual, in person sometimes. There's, email, phone, you can do it by Zoom. There's a lot of different ways, and that community can be huge. Sometimes you don't have a built-in support system and you're doing it alone, but you can create a support system. They are out there through lots of different organizations, and it's important to be connected and to establish as much as you can a support group.
Yeah, and I love that idea of, again, if you can create a rhythm to it, then other people will support you in doing it. So it's not you having to ask, because caregivers feel so guilty asking for anything. It can be just a done deal between this time and this time every week. Alex is going to go do something else. I love that. Sharon, I'm going to pop over to you. If you could just introduce yourself quickly, your name and your professional role as unpaid caregiver, and you have so much experience personally as well. Your score. And then the question I really want to chat with you about is just building on this theme that we're seeing across the three of you, which is you have so many experiences. You have a particular wish that when you went through your first journey as an unpaid caregiver, what you wish you'd known about. And I hope you'll be able to share that with each of us.
Sure, thank you. My name is Sharon McNamara-Cruz, and I'm the Caregiver Support Specialist at Bristol Elder Services. I've been in the role for about 3 years now, and I've actually been with Bristol Elder Services for 29 years. So a few years back, my index score was 43 today, and I'm in the yellow zone. So a few years back, I was the caregiver for my dad. And I didn't realize at the time how it was impacting my health, actually. So I had the notion that I could do everything. I could work full time, take care of my family, take care of my dad. He was living in New Bedford, and I was actually living up in Blackstone. So I was commuting to work and then commuting to New Bedford afterwards. So I ended up having some health issues. After my dad passed, I didn't have time there towards the end to really take care of my health and go for mammogram and do different things that I really should have been doing, some routine appointments I had put off. And I knew that my health was declining. I could feel that. But he was first, and I felt like I just didn't have the time. So I ended up having breast cancer, and thank God survived that. And I'm the caregiver support person. And I wish at the time I had spoken to a caregiver support specialist. I just feel like I didn't have time for self-care. I felt like I was probably burnt out, and I didn't realize it. So I think that maybe there could have been a different outcome if I had spoken with a caregiver support specialist who had the knowledge to be able to support me and give me some ideas.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We were talking about self-care, right? Sometimes the most important self-care is having a community of expertise and love. And that can be, Sharon, to your point, it can be a faith-based community. Alex, to your point, it can be your partner. It can be, family is the people that you choose, right? And then Sharon, it can be an expert, which all of you are in your day jobs, but you really needed yourself personally as well. So I think that's so important, and we can think we have no time for it, but we need to find the time for it. And these can be ways that we can do it. So I'm going to jump back over to you, Sharon Y. You shared something so beautiful in our conversation when we were prepping about an observation you've made on when you're caring for somebody who is a loved one, let's say a parent, and it's a heavy caregiving job, and you're doing things very intimately. There's a decompartmentalization that happens. Can you explain quickly, what is that decompartmentalization? How did you experience it?
Oh, it's and I think what we found helpful in our discussion is this is something that is difficult for people to talk about, but it's something we need to talk about because it's important um, in maintaining ourselves and our health. And one of the things that my sister and I found when we were taking care of our dad briefly after he had had open heart surgery is when you're physically caring for someone, when you're helping with their toileting, when you're helping with their bathing, um, you can really kind of shut off and just kind of go into a very utilitarian mode, a very robotic mode, almost so to speak, because you're having to look at the human body in a different way as a caregiver role, and just not thinking about things the way you normally would, because in caring for your parent or your parent's spouse, you can't think of them the way that you normally would, or you just wouldn't be able to do the task at hand. And so therefore, when it then comes time to be intimate with your spouse, or you want to be able to share some physicality with someone, even if it's a hug, sometimes you feel like you don't want to do that. You don't want to share your body. You can't look at another person's body in that way. And you find yourself becoming very isolated and very shut off, and again, almost robotic, and just going through the motions, just doing those tasks that need to be done, bathing the person, toileting the person, cleaning the person up after an accident. And the last thing you want to think about is being intimate with someone, kissing somebody, hugging somebody. You find you just, want to leave, your body alone and just get some rest and just try to recharge another way. And that can be very off-putting to somebody that doesn't understand what you're dealing with or why you're acting this way. A lot of folks take it personally and think, what did I do? Why are you mad at me? And then it just causes a ripple effect across your relationships.
Yeah, I have never heard anybody articulate so beautifully what so many of us have experienced. And I think one of the things that matters so much is what we're working so hard at Archangels to do, to let people know you are not alone in this, right? You are not alone. This is actually normal. So I'm going to switch over and share just one more piece of data, which I had chatted with you guys about. You really helped me remember it, which is we asked the question about, we call them the unmentionables of caregiving. 63% of caregivers who are in the red, right? So you're in a really intense period saying, of course, they're not fooling around. Like, how is that possible to be happening? And this is 7 times those who are in the green. So as caregiver intensity increases for all of the reasons, Sharon, you just said, but there's something else that happens too, right? Sharon, you went into, and this can cause, we call it turn taking, but you start to feel weird in your relationship. You're not sharing as much. 1 in 2 caregivers who are in the red are worrying that their primary relationship is going to end due to caregiving. That's a stunning, stunning, stunning statistic. 17 times the number of caregivers who are in the green. So why does that matter? Well, that matters because we need to, if we knew that we were not alone in it, maybe we could have conversations with our partners to say, oh my gosh, a lot of other caregivers are in this role too. So it's not us. This is something that we're going through, and let's try and think of some ways to get through it. So I want to come back to this notion of, okay, you're newly married, Alex, and we have to wrap up pretty quickly, but you're newly married, right? All this relationship stuff is happening for you. This is supposed to be the most gorgeous moment of your life, and this is not happening. Give us a little bit of this notion of, how did you survive? You talked about setting boundaries, and how did you survive when it came to your relationship and work with all of these realities that were coming into it?
Yeah, so when everything first happened, just like you said, we were newly married and trying to enjoy that phase, but I felt extremely guilty that I couldn't have my, grandparent living in my home. Unfortunately, another family member had to take that on for various reasons. I didn't have the setup, but in order to really, I was trying to, kind of get over my guilt, and by really putting too much of myself out there, and I really lost boundaries. And it was my husband who said, your boundaries are not there anymore, and it's breaking, it's wearing you down too much. And I realized I needed to start putting them up, and it was a little difficult. Family tension was a little hard. I had a lot of experience professionally in the caregiving world and knew what services needed to be set up and how to get the medical stuff we needed, but setting up those boundaries really helped me at the end of the day to be able to be a better caregiver, a more present caregiver. And I was able to really be there for the important things and the things that really I needed to be there for, without, just having a complete breakdown. So putting up those boundaries is extremely important. And sometimes you don't have the spouse to help you with that, but setting them, it's crucial for your caregiving journey.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. I just want to point out again, you're all experts in this, right? This is your job. You are professional supporters of unpaid caregivers, and you're still learning this stuff the hard way, right? So let's take away any guilt that anyone has if they're feeling they're doing this imperfectly. We're all learning. And Sharon, that's going to bring me back over to you for the final question, which is respite, right? And how do we get this break? So we're setting boundaries, so maybe we can have these breaks. And I think sometimes people have this idea. When someone says to me, Alex, you should take respite, I literally want to be like how, with what time? I don't have any. But you made some gorgeous points about think about respite more broadly, more expansively. Can you share some of those tips for anybody who's watching?
Sure. So my feelings on respite, I mean, it's relief for the caregiver. I feel like that is so very important. And I can relate sometimes when caregivers when I bring up the subject and they say, I don't have time for that. And I understand, I've been there as a caregiver. But the way I look at it now is you can even just go outside and take a walk in the yard just to change your thought process for a few minutes, and your whole concept of everything may change. So it can just be that 5-minute break, going in the bathroom and screaming, whatever it needs to be. But I have been very fortunate lately that I have some funding to be able to provide respite free of charge to caregivers. And that has also included technology. So some of the things that we've been able to do is buy baby cameras and with video for caregivers. And just to give you some examples, I had a caregiver who called and said it was so very helpful because he was actually able to exercise for the first time in a long time. So the baby monitor comes with a separate piece and you can carry that with you. So he was able to go in another room and actually go on the treadmill, but still be able to see his mom. I had another caregiver who mentioned that she was able to do some gardening. So it works right outside the perimeter of the house. And she was able to be outside there while her husband was in the living room. So then I've also worked with private companies to provide respite care. So I have a minimum of 4 hours going in on several of my cases. And one of my clients called, and this really hit home because she said, I just want to thank you. The worker came. I was able to stay at home in another room. I was able to actually take a bath and wash my hair. So that really meant a lot to her.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. While I have other caregivers who have actually gone out. I have a gentleman who hasn't left the house in a couple of years. He's been caring for his wife. And we kind of brainstormed about different activities that he may enjoy. And he said he was an avid golfer. And he wanted to maybe get in touch with some of his golfing buddies and see if they could go play some golf with the respite time. So it has been very, very helpful to many caregivers.
So I know we have to wrap. I just want to say to you guys, each of you are sharing things that are so vital. And the reminder of a much broad respite can be get into the other room, call your best friend, have a red phone and just say 17 swears in a row, right? Go into the bathroom and scream as loud as you can. It's not this idea of 3 days at a yoga retreat. We wish it were, but it's often not. And for anyone who's listening, who's not an unpaid caregiver, think about what you just heard. Respite, just getting into another room for 30 minutes can feel like an enormous break for an unpaid caregiver. So do what you can to please give those caregivers in your life. Don't ask them, how can I help you? Just insert yourself into their lives and be helping them, because they are often so intensely involved in the loving work that they're doing that they're not thinking about caring for themselves. And we just heard lots of examples of how to do that better and what it means if you do. It can ultimately be the difference between life and death, which really matters. So I want to say to the three of you guys, I know we're going to have many more conversations because I loved talking to you, and I can't wait to talk to you more about each of these topics. And maybe we'll convince Molly to let us come back and talk more about the relationship component or dig in on any of these other topics as well. But what I'm going to do right now is transition over to a beautiful piece you'll see by Fall River Community Media. So I think, Paul, I'm going to just pass it over to you. Round of applause for beautiful panelists. Thank you. We love you guys. And Paul, I think you're just going to take it away.
Hello all, I am Jillian Gadbois. I am the project coordinator at Bristol Elder Services, and today's presentation is brought to you by the Age and Dementia Friendly Coalition of Greater Fall River. As we know, those working in the aging service industry and caregivers in the Greater Fall River area play such a vital role in maintaining the care and well-being of our growing aging population. Being in such an important role can often feel overwhelming, as the needs of those they are caring for often outweigh the needs of the caregiver. Today, we have Mary Curlew, who is the Community Education and Training Specialist at Jewish Family and Children's Services. She is here with us to discuss how professionals in the aging service industry and caregivers can care for themselves while battling daily stressors that comes with caring for others. Hi, Mary. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me, Jillian. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you.
I am too. Oh, we're so excited to have you. Thank you very much. So for our first question we know that stress is a struggle we can have at all times. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to redo that. We know that stress is a struggle we can have. What are some of the ways our body tells us that we are overwhelmed and worn down?
Thank you, Jillian. That's a great question. And especially, I thank you so much for bringing the idea of the body, because I think so much times we talk about stress, we think only about our emotions. And we're learning, especially over the past year, how impactful our thoughts, our emotions are indeed on our body. In fact, there's been lots of citation of that study that showed that social isolation alone and how we think about being alone or lonely, it has the same health impact as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So, our bodies react very much to stress. That can come out in physical pain, exacerbation of chronic health issues like diabetes or hypertension. You might think you're doing everything right according to the doctor, you're taking your medication, and you're still struggling with maintaining your diabetes. It could be related to stress. Also in our thoughts, the way we think about things. If you're finding yourself thinking primarily more negatively about life, if you're starting to feel more antagonistic towards people in your life, and that social component too, obviously is a really big one. If you find yourself wanting to stay away from people or becoming more argumentative, those can all be signs that stress is taking its toll. Big one also, sleep. I always ask people when I first meet with them, how is your sleep? And that's, based on age, we tend to sleep smaller chunks when we get older and not as long or as deep. So, judge it based on age also. But if your sleep has changed significantly, that could be a real sign that stress is having an impact on you.
Great. Now, would you be able to explain why our brains are hardwired to react this way to stressors?
Yeah, I really recommend this wonderful book by Robert Sapolsky called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And a lot of that reason is because we are hardwired, just like every other animal in the animal kingdom, to respond to stress and that fight, flight, freeze mentality. When we see a bear or a dog coming towards us and we're afraid of dogs, our body will start to produce all the hormones we need to be able to get ready to run or fight that wild animal. However, what's different from us and animals in the animal kingdom is that we often have stressors, and we have our fight, flight, freeze go off when somebody gives us a dirty look, or we feel like we're not going to be able to get all those tasks, our house clean in time, or we know we have an inspection, or we need to bring our car in and we're worried about pricely cost to having our car repaired. We produce those same hormones, but we don't have anything to fight or flight from. We have to deal with it. We have to address it. And when we don't have that way of reacting to it, those stress hormones stay in our bodies and they can make us sick over time. It's really all about the mind, body, and social connection that we have with one another and with each other, and within ourselves as well.
Perfect. So with all of this stress and all of this anxiety that caregivers and those in the aging service industry might have, so there's this term that we like to use, self-care. Can you explain a little bit about what the common misconceptions of self-care might be?
Yeah, I'd love to, actually. In fact, I have a couple of graphics that might help explain how self-care is really meant to work or is most effective. One of it is, as I just mentioned, the mind-body social connection. When we think about self-care, we often focus immediately on that biological component, increasing exercise, taking a break from stress. Everybody keeps, the Calgon Take Me Away commercials, if you remember those, that we take care of our bodies. We take a bath, we take vacation. So if I wish I could see if everybody in TV land out there, if I asked them how many times you took a vacation or walked away from something that was causing you a lot of stress, only to have to come back to it even more stress than when you left. If we don't react to these stressors in our lives, like I just mentioned, like animals do in the animal kingdom, those stress hormones still stay there even if we're avoiding the stressor, even if we're taking a bath, even if we're exercising. So it's really important that when we deal with stress or talk about stress, we take into component each one of these parts of our beings. Our biology, how we think about it is really, really important. Our sense of values, having a sense of purpose around why I'm having this stressor. There's lots of research that shows that if somebody has a sense of meaning, even in awful, horrible situations, like Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He was in the concentration camps during the Holocaust, and he showed that people who had a sense of purpose, even in the midst of really dire, horrible situations, were often able to survive much easier than people who did not have a sense of purpose. And then that social component. There's a fourth part about fight, flight, freeze that we often ignore or forget about, is that it's fight, flight, freeze, and friend and befriend. When we form those social connections, when we reach out for somebody, we activate that fight, flight, freeze, friend and befriend. And that can be a way also of reducing those stress hormones. So your self-care is not all about avoiding the stressors. If anything, it's about processing and dealing with those stressors. Because if we don't, what happens is our sympathetic nervous system, what we've been talking about, continues to just pump out all those stress hormones. It continues to shut down our digestive system so we don't feel hungry, or we feel like eating way too much than we should. We either pee a lot or we don't pee at all. And when we do activate fight, flight, freeze, or we address the stressors, we engage our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the one that helps us feel more calm, more relaxed, more in control of the situations or the things that we're dealing with. And these are some of those things that we can do apart from just the, avoiding stress. These are some things that we can do that are real sort of self-care measures.
Yeah, that is great. So I loved your concept of facing your anxieties instead of avoiding them. Like as we've said in a different workshop that we've been in together, it's not just all about bubble baths and eating chocolate to avoid your stressors. So those are great preventative measures, what would you recommend to somebody that would be in the middle of a very stressful situation? What are some coping strategies that you would recommend?
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you. I encourage people, when you're thinking about addressing stress, is to think about yourself as a system. Just like I showed you that, the parasympathetic nervous system versus the sympathetic nervous system, your body is a system. And we know that when we're under high levels of stress, we tend to shut down a lot of our bodily functions, like our gastrointestinal system. That's why sometimes your mouth gets dry when you get really stressed. And so reversing that system can be really helpful by engaging your parasympathetic nervous system. One simple and really quick way to do that is to drink water. I know it sounds very, very simple and maybe a little bit too simple, but taking a sip of water when you're really stressed will activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Because if you think about it, if you were a zebra and there's a lion nearby, you are not going to stop to sip and put your head down and put yourself at risk to sip water. It's the same thing with our own bodies. We sip water, we tell ourselves, oh, I have nothing to run and fight, flight, freeze around. Another one is just paying attention. If you're feeling really stressed about something that's going on, and you just pause, take that deep, sort of very brief pause to notice anything that you hear, see, smell, or feel. Like if I was to do that, and I encourage you to do it now as well, and I just stopped and listened for a second, I'd hear the birds. I don't know if you can hear them on my screen, but I can hear the birds chirping outside. I can hear my computer screen buzzing. And that simple act of stopping those thoughts and going, I can't believe this is happening. He's getting me so angry. If he doesn't just stop doing this, I'm going to. And taking that brief pause, you're engaging your parasympathetic nervous system that then tells you, I wouldn't be stopping and listening to the birds if I was in crises. I would have shut down that function. I would only be paying attention to the stressor or the crises in front of me. So it's called sensate focus. It's just focusing on what you see, smell, hear, taste. Sipping on the water is another one. Sucking on a mint. And then my final last one, when you're really, really in dire straits, is something as simple as taking a cold pack or a cold water, a cold compress. You saw this in all the movies in the Victorian era. They would always put like smelling salts, keep themselves from passing out, or a cold pack right on your forehead. It's another great way to engage your parasympathetic nervous system and shutting down all those hormones that are pumping to get you to fight, flight, freeze. So some pretty easy, simple ones. Another one is just to question your thoughts. So I'm thinking this way about this. I'm feeling like this is not fair. Is there another way of looking at it? And sometimes just shifting your thoughts ever so slightly will also impact your stress reaction.
That's great. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
If it's okay, I'd like to just go back to that, the idea of, things that people can do in the meantime, because I love that acronym NURSE. The NURSE is nutrition, understanding, rest, sense of purpose, and exercise. In many ways, we covered this already, but I encourage people to just write this down, write down this acronym. And I have to give credit to Jean Driscoll, by the way. She's a psychiatric nurse practitioner who taught me this acronym. But to think about, what am I eating? What am I taking into my body? What am I drinking enough water? And then the U is, am I getting connection? Am I with people who get me, understand me? Am I making those social connections? The rest is sleep, obviously. Exercise, obvious one. Getting exercise burns off all those hormones too. But I really encourage people to think about sense of purpose. Why am I doing this? What am I doing? What's really the value behind all this stressor? And if you can find a sense of purpose or sense of meaning, even in very dire times, your stress reaction will be less negative towards your body and less destructive to your body. So that's my shout out. Write down this acronym, everybody, and take care of yourselves. No, don't avoid the stress.
Thank you, Mary, for joining us. If you have any questions, please give us a call for Bristol Elder Services at 774-627-1303. We would love to share more information about the Age and Dementia Friendly Greater Fall River Coalition with you. Thank you so much and have a great day.
That was fantastic. I wrote that down. Don't avoid the stress. You can't. Anyone who's been an unpaid caregiver, you do feel sometimes like you are being chased by a lion. So this notion of even a sip of water, your body will recognize you couldn't have a sip of water if you were, being chased by a wild animal, which it can feel like. Stop and breathe, cold compress. There's another way for all of us to find Zen and to find some relief, which is if we're lucky enough to be able to practice Tai Chi. So Tai Chi, excuse me, what we're going to transition to right now is a demonstration by Yao Li. And I'm personally so excited I'm going to be standing up and doing this in concert at the same time. Looking to find a little piece myself. So Paul, Molly, if you could go ahead and roll that would be great. And until you can, I'm just going to offer other commentary on stuff that I loved about what we just walked through. If we go back through some of the data and statistics, and Paul or Molly just roll right over me once that video is playing of Yao Li and the Tai Chi, is this notion of remembering that you're not alone. And the theme that I think we keep hearing across everybody is the extent to which we are all going through this together. And so finding tips and tricks to manage through that stress, whether it be better breathing, having a sip of water, recognizing you're not actually being chased, taking a moment to have a deep breath, finding a support system. Oops, I will now be quiet. Stop my video. This is going. I'm going to keep going with more stats until I see this start running. So again, coming back to this notion that one of the greatest things from a respite and self-care perspective is just knowing that you're not the only person going through it. So I want to share those CDC stats with you once again.
Back is in a neutral position, tailbones tucked under. And if you can, breathe through your nose.
Hello, my name is Yao.
I'm Dorri.
We will be sharing with you a 10 to 15-minute class of Tai Chi. Dorri will lead us.
Thanks, Yao. Welcome, everyone. Take your feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, back is in a neutral position, tailbones tucked under. And if you can, breathe through your nose and keep your mouth closed. To start, let's bring the shoulders up nice and high, right up to your ears, and take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale, drop the shoulders down. Inhale and exhale, drop the shoulders down. Inhale and exhale. Very nice. And now bring your hands together, interlock your fingers very gently. Begin to roll your wrists.
This exercise here is called joint rotation.
Like you're oiling the joints. And bring your hands down to your sides, turn the palms up, and slowly rotate just the elbows, keeping the shoulders down.
Inhale when you bring your hands up, and exhale when your hands goes down.
And if that doesn't feel comfortable, just relax the breath and focus on the movement. Change direction.
Keep your knees slightly bent, like you're sitting in a high chair.
And relax the hands down at your sides. Back to the shoulders, we're going to roll the shoulders back. 2 more times. And then roll the shoulders forward. Nice. And now hands on your waist and hip circles. Just notice if anything feels tight to you. And now change direction. Beautiful. Okay. And bring your hands forward and gently shake the wrists. Check that your knees are slightly bent. Shoulders down, elbows relaxed.
Shake off all your nervous tensions off your fingers.
Let it all go. And this is a Qigong exercise. It's associated with the heart meridian. And it's thought that it helps to release excess emotional tension from the heart.
Yeah. You've never heard of Qigong before. Qi is energy, life force, and Gong is work. Qi works.
Then bring your hands back to your sides and relax the fingers so they're pointing down to the floor. So we have a little more extension through the hands. And now raise the arms up, shoulder high, leading with the wrists. Drop the elbows, drop the wrists, and lower the hands down. And this is called calming the spirit. Float the arms up. Drop the elbows, drop the wrists, lower the hands down.
This is the first movement in Tai Chi.
Breathe in. We want to connect the breath if we can. And breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. 2 more times. Breathe in. Breathe out. Once more. Breathe in. And breathe out. Hands to your sides. Turn the palms out. Circle the arms up. Hands over your head. Eyes look. And then bring your hands down. Palms out. Circle up. Inhale. And exhale. This is called pulling down heaven. Palms up. Inhale.
You're gathering Qi from the sky,
And exhale.
and Qi bring it towards you.
Palms up. Inhale. Eyes look. And exhale. 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. Once more. Inhale. And exhale. And this time as your hands come down, lower your chin. Hands relaxed at your sides. Take a deep breath, inhale. And exhale.
Feel the muscle in your neck stretching.
And keep your chin down and take your head to the side. Eyes look to the floor. Inhale. Exhale. Chin down, roll to the other side. Inhale. Exhale. Back to the center and bring your head up. Nice. For this one, it's like a big bear hug. So we're going to turn the palms out again, raise the arms a little bit, bending the elbows, engaging that rotator cuff, and then bring your hands forward, slightly rounding your back. Hands come all the way forward. And then with the palms in, draw your hands in toward your heart. Turn the palms up, circle out, and forward, inhale. Round in the back, and then exhale. Hands in toward the heart. Palms up, circle out, inhale. Bring them forward.
Feel the back.
And exhale. Palms up, circle out, inhale.
Extension.
And exhale. Palms up, circle out, inhale. And exhale. Once more, inhale. And exhale. And rather than bringing the hands to your sides, simply turn your hands, palms facing each other, fingers forward. Check that your knees are slightly bent. Arms are away from the sides of the body. And imagine you're holding an invisible ball. Okay? And without turning the waist, we're going to simply shift over to your left side. So all your weight's on your left. Right leg is empty. And then shift all your weight to your right side. Left side's empty. Shift again. Maintaining ears over the shoulders, shoulders over the hips, and switch. So it's just a gentle rocking motion, side to side.
So the fullness on one leg and empty the other one. This whole positive and negative effect. In Tai Chi called the yin and yang.
And check that your knees are slightly bent.
Breathe into all the way down to like below your abdomen.
Yeah. I'd say lower abdomen.
Lower.
Yeah. Drawing the breath down to the lower abdomen. A few more times and pay attention to the feeling in your hands.
You might feel tingling sensation in your fingertips. And your hands might feel warmer. Continue to feel the chi ball in your hands.
And then relax back to center. And now turn the palms down, lightly pressing the hands down. Imagine you're standing in water, so you can feel the water under your hands. And for this, we are going to turn the waist. So you're going to shift to your left side, turn the waist, eyes follow, but keep them lifted. Hands come around, inhale. And then come back to the center and exhale. Other side, turning, inhale, arms around, eyes lift. And exhale. So we have a very gentle spinal rotation. Inhale, eyes lift. And exhale. Inhale.
Feel the energy going through your lower back.
And exhale. Continue. Inhale. Eyes follow. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. And once more. Inhale. Exhale. Continue to press down with the hands, fingers pointing forward, arms away from the sides of the body, knees slightly bent. Circle the left palm up, in front of your eyes. Connect your eyes to your hand and turn to the side, taking that arm to the side like you're reading a book, and your eyes follow, turning the neck only. Shoulders are square forward, hips are square forward. Circle back, exhale. Press down. So shoulders forward, hips forward. Bring the right arm up, connect the eyes, press down with the left hand. Take the hand to the side, eyes following, inhale. And exhale. Press down, circle up, inhale. Eyes look. And exhale. Good. So it's definitely more to the side. We're not looking behind this time. It's just to the side. Inhale.
Tai Chi is a martial arts,
Exhale.
the internal martial arts. Like Kung Fu is external martial arts.
Inhale.
So this move here is like a block.
And exhale.
You're defending yourself with a block.
Inhale. Exhale. 2 more times. Inhale, connect the eyes. And exhale. Once more. Inhale. Exhale. 2 hands down. And we're going to continue to press down, and this time with the fingers pointing in. And this technique is called Wise Owl Turns Its Head. So you're going to rotate the wrists, and then the elbows, shoulders follow, eyes look to the side, arms behind you, chest out. Inhale. Exhale. Relax the hands back, fingers pointing in. Press down, rotate, wrists, elbows, shoulders, eyes look to the opposite side, arms behind your chest out, inhale. And exhale. Back, fingers pointing in. Again, press, rotate, wrists, elbows, shoulders, eyes look, inhale.
So Wise Owl looks back is a Qigong exercise.
Exhale.
But Qigong and Tai Chi are intrinsically connected.
Press down, rotate, inhale. Exhale. Two more times. Press and rotate, inhale. Exhale. Once more. Inhale. Exhale. And bring your hands forward. Let's relax those wrists again. Good job. We're coming to the close. And what we'll do is return to one of the techniques we did in the beginning, which is this. Bring the hands down to the sides, turn the palms up, circle up, and inhale. Eyes look, and exhale. Palms up, inhale, and exhale. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. All right, very nice. Okay, we hope you enjoy your Tai Chi session, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, take care.
Okay, I'm coming on to do a couple things. One, to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have any questions about any of this, you can reach out through the chat. I want to wrap with a couple quick thoughts for all of us. Number one, just think about the data that we shared in the beginning. 43% of adults, 43% of adults in the US right now are unpaid caregivers. 23% are sandwich generation. And it's having 70% of those unpaid caregivers have at least one adverse mental health consequence. So most importantly, just know that you're not alone. There's information in the chat for where you can go, what you can email if you have any questions. I want to share also a few other themes, right? Since you are not alone, really the best way to reduce that intensity, that caregiver intensity, is to talk about it. This is something that so many people are going through. So at least don't feel locked up in your own head about it. I think that's a great way to help reduce stress, have a relief valve, whatever that may be. Broaden the definition of what that can be. Mark Dissoni just made a great point that if you happen to be in a moment where you have the time and energy, Tai Chi is a great example of something you can do. We also heard earlier from one of our beautiful panelists, it might be that the only thing you can do in a time of high stress is close the bathroom door and scream, and that is okay too, right? Get your whole list of stuff that you can do. I've got a red phone, somebody I always call, and I just say as many swears as I can in a minute, and that helps me. But then also know that support does exist, right? So Alex talked and both Sharons talked about these caregiver specialists. And I want you guys to know how you can find those is go to Mass Options. And so that link was put in. Mass Options is a phone number you can call, a website you can go to, and they can link you through to resources that will be available in your area. And go ahead and take your caregiver intensity index. That link was there. If you have trouble with the link, just reach out to contact@archangels.me, contact@archangels, ARCHANGELS.me. And we can get you a link to that as well, or answer any other questions you have. And the last thing I want to say is October 22nd, save the date. That will be the next caregiver webinar, next in the caregiver webinar series. So we hope to see all of you there. Thank you so much. Mass Options, the phone number is 800-243. Hold on, I'm read this to you guys. The phone number is 800-243-4636, 800-243-4636. Is that right? Yes, it is. 4636. Again, thank you. Thank you to EOEA. Thank you to Molly. Thank you to Paul. Thank you to everybody at Elder Affairs for the extraordinary work that you do supporting the caregivers across the Commonwealth in so many ways. This is just one example of the way you help me stay sane and feeling supported and not alone. And I hope that's true for the rest of you all out there in the caregiver world as well. Mwah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Take care.